Dogs and Birds course books. It came with 2 books, didn't it? We had the yellow book, and it also came with this fantastic green book. Now, there's not too much difference between the yellow and green book, but there is one major difference. Now we have animals here. I get the green book out. It's now blank notes. Now, the reason we have this book here is to give the child a more realistic music reading experience. It is literally just a transition from having aided music notes, which is the animals here, to reading with none. Along with the green book, we can also start doing certain things on the keyboard itself. So one thing I like doing is starting to remove certain animals off the keyboard. So obviously, dog and bird were the first ones we added. So usually, they're the first ones I take away. So near the end of book 1, when they're getting very confident, I'll take away dog and bird and be like, can you still play this? But without dog and bird on the keyboard. Most of the time they can, because it's really cemented into their minds. So you can take another one away. I like to do the reverse. So if it was one of the first added, it would be one of the first taken away. So I'll take away egg next. And that's where it starts getting a little bit more complicated, because now we have 2 blank notes next to each other. Some children take with this and they're absolutely fine with it. Some aren't. It doesn't matter. Just be patient. They will get this. But it's a fun little game. And if they're struggling so much, just add it back. It really doesn't matter. So taking away the animals doesn't need to be a permanent feature. We can turn this into a little game, or we can do this all the time. But the reason we're doing this is so they start being familiar with the keyboard on the piano. So do they always remember where dog lives? Do they always remember where bird lives? Getting to the end of book 1, we want them to really be confident with this. So when they move on to book 2, this isn't a big thing stopping them. They can just see the keyboard and start playing. So similar to with the blank notes, the point of this is so the child gets confident enough to be able to sit down at a piano and start playing music without any sort of aid. They can do this by themselves, sit down and start playing music. We just want them to be familiar and confident on the piano. So mentioning book 2 and all the concepts, the point is we're trying to strengthen ourselves. So when we go into book 2, we're confident and there's nothing new which is going to throw us off. But one thing I like to do before we even attempt book 2 is start changing our hands. So using a different finger here changes our whole hand position. So we've been used to using our owl eyes. We can go to owl glasses and you can play different pieces of music using this, and then this, and then this. What's really important here is when it comes to this finger and your little finger, your ring and your little, because obviously there's not a lot of strength when it comes to these 2. So when we start getting to the nearer the end of book 1, I would advise to start doing different fingers so we can play a whole piece of music like this. I'll give you an example. So I'll just play bar 1 of the last piece of music all across the universe, and I'm going to use this finger here, my ring finger. So I've got this. I'm just going to play the first 4 bars. So I can already feel there's a bit of a strain on my hand here. So we've got goose, 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 fish, goose, egg, goose, dog, goose, 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 goose. Now if you give it a go yourself, you can feel that your arm is being used in a whole completely different way. You can start doing stuff like this earlier on. So when we first introduce egg, rather than using owl eyes, we can use these owl glasses here. There's no real correct method of when you want to start adding different fingers, but I would advise do it earlier on so the child gets used to using different fingers, because when you get to book 2, you're going from this to this. So it's probably a good idea to get used to strengthening each finger here. So another really important thing when we're using these owl eyes, owl glasses, owl binoculars is in how we hold our hands. Because when we're playing book 2, our hands should be like this. Okay, so there is a reason why we're doing it, is so our arms are ready for when we're using all our fingers in book 2. So best practices. Daily practice is going to be the best way to go. As much practice as you physically can do. But just short bursts of 5 minutes every day goes such a long way. It's going to be such a huge benefit to your child practicing anything for 5 minutes a day. It could be playing a piece of music. If he could be doing a rhythm exercise, an echo game, a finger exercise, it really doesn't matter. As long as you're focusing on something once a day for a short amount of time, it's going to do so much wonders for the child. But let's just make sure it's consistent. Can you do it every day? For rapid results will be from planned practices, but varied. So let's make sure we're not just doing pieces of music all the time. It could be a rhythm exercise, it could be a singing exercise, but as long as you're doing smidges a day, it's going to be fantastic. For practicing, when you're at home and if you've got your space to set up the instrument, which is fantastic, my advice would be keep it constant. Make sure the space is tidy and the child can always go there and practice. Make it their space, so when they get into the room, they get into the right zone and they know, okay, this is our music lesson and this is where I learn and this is where I have fun. But make sure the space is for them. Obviously, rooms are used for loads of different reasons and you can't just have a room dedicated to music. But make it so when they go in there, they know this is my space and this is going to be for music. If you go to the SOMI website, you'll be able to access the practice guidelines blog, the recommended instruments blog. The Dogs and Birds beginners bundle is also available on there to buy. You'll also be able to access the weekly update spreadsheet, which automatically updates to let you know where your child is up to. I hope you've enjoyed this first course on Dogs and Birds Book 1, and following there will be a course for Dogs and Birds Book 2 coming. So keep your eyes peeled for that, and in the meantime, enjoy playing some beautiful music. So I've been George from SOMI Academy. Have fun and take care.